Welcome to the UBR streaming network. This is All Eyes on Cleveland. My name is Brad Ward. The man next to me, right on time, the one and only Quincy Carrier. It's been a minute. Follow him at Quen_C. Good to have you back, brother. Good to see you. What's going on, Q?
Nothing much. Just the old regular off-season fun.
Nonsense, you mean, right?
Sometimes it's nonsense. Sometimes there's actually stuff there, right? It's about what I've learned is that the off season is more about just figuring out how much to take certain information seriously and just understanding that however impactful you think this information is going to be, it's not. And you're probably going to spend the bulk of your time this season talking about something you ain't even think would happen this year.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's usually how it plays out, right? Tonight we're doing burning questions. So, and some of this, I just want to kind of get caught up with you. Talked in a while. Just kind of get your thoughts on. All right, there we go. Get your thoughts on some of the things that have happened. Mm-hmm. And just some overarching thoughts. Tomorrow's the 4th of July. Happy 4th to everybody. Be safe out there. Hope you guys all have fun. Casey's at fireworks with his children. My child is older and does whatever he wants now. So here we are. Let's do this thing. So I wanted to start with you, Quincy. Well, first of all, any big plans for the 4th?
Nah.
No.
I'm not really a holiday guy.
Yeah. Fireworks, they're cool when you're kids, but yeah. So, all right. Obo Okoronkwo, Quincy. I've asked this question to everybody. Browns saved $6 million. Are you comfortable with the edge room of Myles Garrett, Isaiah McGuire, Alex Wright, and Troyan Shoyinka, now that Obo is gone? And I asked this question because, yes, we felt like he was going to get cut because they were going to save $6 million, but he was a useful player, I feel like. And when you get rid of a useful player and you don't really know what depth is beyond that fourth guy, like, Aiden Huntington, maybe, we don't really know. You know what I mean? How do you feel about that room? And what really needs to be a strong point for this team this year?
Yeah, I got no problem with it. Obo's effectiveness went down to last year. Yeah. So he wasn't super effective last year. Also, you got Isaiah McGuire to hold down the main edge position on the other side of Myles Garrett. Joe can get in there in that rotation. Alex Wright has to find a way to make this roster. So I think he got more than enough people where I feel comfortable in them being able to fulfill that role, or at least have a role that is equal to or greater than what Obo Okoronkwo was able to do for this team. And also, this is a team that's trying to get a lot better in run defense, and Obo Okoronkwo wasn't going to help you.
Does it feel like this is one of those moves that kind of you're allowing your younger players some freedom to get more snaps? Like, not that he would have held up, Isaiah McGuire from getting snaps, but if you're really asking Alex Wright and Isaiah McGuire to step into a role this year, you've kind of cleared the way for that. I expect Joe Tryon Shoyinka to be really a third and pass guy, right? Kind of in Obo's role.
I don't know if it's about getting younger. I just think it's about getting cheaper at that spot, right? Like, you're investing in a defensive line. You're thinking 2-3 years down the line. Do I really want to be in a situation where I have to give an extension to Obo Okoronkwo when I know Mike Hall is somebody you hope be an extension-worthy player? Obviously, Mason Graham. You're already investing the most money in Myles Garrett, right? So to me, it's more about just bringing the cost down at the room, and Obo Okoronkwo was a pretty replaceable part of that. It might be that Joe gets those exact same snaps. It might be that Jim Schwartz is like, hey, we've done the Obo Okoronkwo thing. Maybe we can try something where we're a little bit heavier in the line of scrimmage, a little bit longer, and that means playing out Isaiah McGuire wider, but more snaps while putting somebody more athletic on the inside of him, like a Alex Wright. So the defensive line is going to be malleable. There's going to be a lot of ways, and still the Browns are in a situation where it's going to be hard for them to get down to 10 bodies in that defensive line room. So I think it was really, hey, we have a surplus. This guy's costing extra money. 1 + 1, well, 1 - 1 is going to equal 0, right? Like it's just going to be math that makes sense for them.
Okay. All right. So you're fine with that. That's good. Makes me feel better because it's not that I'm worried about it. It's just they they need them to be so strong there, and not that Obo. I don't know. He just kind of was like a little bit of a security blanket. I know he wasn't very good last year, but nobody really was. And then he was around the quarterback a lot in 23. So you feel like he was a useful player gone. So you just need guys to step up. Real quickly on the quarterbacks. So there was a lot of, since we've talked last, there was a lot of that came out about, the narrative of, Shador is not as far along in knowing the offense as, the other guys, Pickett, and more importantly, Dylan Gabriel. And because he played in 3 offenses at a bigger school, and that's why he wasn't on the other field. And this is kind of some of the stuff that I think it was Charles Robinson wrote about, and some other people, that he's just behind, right? I didn't really care. Like, I don't really care if he's behind. It's like you have this time now, right, to catch up if that's where you're at, and when they come back. So my question for you is, when they come back, how do you feel about all that? Are you buying into any of that? And when they come back, for me, it's like blank slate, go. Like when you hit the ground for training camp, should it be just like go and it's sink or swim? You're going to get reps with the ones, and if you can't do it, it's sink or swim time? Or are they still easing guys in? Are they still giving guys the, reps on field too? And how do you think they play that out?
Well, first, like, let's address like the Charles Robinson thing of it, right? Yeah. Like, is Shador behind? Is there stuff that he's struggling with? Is there not? One, he's a rookie quarterback, so I wouldn't be surprised if there was stuff in the transition to the NFL that he's eventually going to struggle with. Same thing with like Dylan Gabriel, right? Now, where Dylan does have a bit of a beat on him is that Dylan does have experience where terminology changes. I know people are like, well, Shador's changed offensive coordinators too. And I don't know how changing offensive coordinators suddenly became a flex. Like, it's now, like, if you notice that, it's like, oh man, this guy's been through turmoil. Like, he's pro ready. He already knows how to deal with the chaos. It's like, but then Baker Mayfield has 5 offensive coordinators in 5 years, and we're like, this is the worst organization ever, right? So it's like, I don't understand it. Like, I think it might be true that Dylan can pick up the playbook faster, but I don't think that's a skill set that determines anything at the end of the day, because there's a lot of quarterbacks who can pick up a playbook really fast. Case Keenum can do it really fast, but there's a reason why they can pick up a playbook really fast, because they have a lot of experience picking up playbook. I don't know how long it takes Joe Burrow to pick up a new playbook. I've never had to see him do it. It's not one of those skills I really care about, whether he's learning the book super fast, if he's a savant-like guy or anything like that. That's for coaches to get excited about behind the scenes. And like, again, we really don't know who's struggling with what. If they're behind the veterans who have been there since March, it's not a surprise. No. Like, that's exactly how that should go. I think with Shador, you have to have your ears out, because he is somebody where there is an incentive to report something about, right? Even if there's nothing there, you got to make the report look like something, because news about Shador is gonna make people tune in, because he's an ultra popular figure, and the draft made him one of the most popular players in the NFL before he even took a step foot in the league, right? Like it made him a star, basically, right? National story. So that is just one part of it, right? Who's ahead, who's not, I don't really care. It might be the case, and I've talked about this before, that Dylan might just have more opportunity at the beginning of the season than Shedeur anyways, no matter what happens in camp, just because if you look at how Kevin Stefanski likes his quarterbacks, and I've made this point, and I don't want to get too far rambly, so I try to cut this off short, and we can have a larger discussion about it later on. But Kevin is not, or does not appear to be, I'm going to be in your headset, hold your hand, and tell you everything guy, right? From what we have seen, Kevin is here's the play. We told you what to do during the week. You need to look for all this stuff. We're going to trust you to do it, right? And that's where we've seen certain guys struggle, right? Every time we throw a rookie out there, we're like, oh, it looks like he was left out there to die or he was overwhelmed. There's probably some truth to that, right? I think Kevin, at his heart, he wants a veteran quarterback. He wants somebody who can go out there and do what needs to be done. And he doesn't have to hold his hand because that's kind of how he coaches. And there's beauty in that. Like if Kevin got fired today and ended up in Cincinnati, they win a Super Bowl with Kevin. I'd be pretty confident. That's the exact kind of scenario where he would thrive at. It's a little bit more difficult when he's developing a guy, and that's not the most helpful development strategy, right?
He wants you to have the answers, right? He wants you to have the answers to the test.
He wants
know where to go with the ball.
To know the basis of the offense enough and to know the fundamentals of what you should do when you see stuff that you can find the answer that's in the play. Because we always talk about this. Every Kevin Stefanski year, there was somebody open here. There was an answer there. There's always an answer in the Kevin Stefanski offense. That's how it's designed, right?
Yes.
It's up to you to figure out what the question is, right, in order to fill out the answer. And that's where some quarterbacks kind of fall. That's why Joe Flacco did so well here. He's like, oh, yeah, I know these questions.
Yep.
That's the answer.
Great
sometimes he thinks he knows the answer, the question, and he's wrong, and he throws the interception. But there's always an answer in the Kevin Stefanski. That's the strength of it, right? That's why guys can look so good here. But you got to find a question. And that's just going to be hard for Shedeur to do in year one, right? Especially like fresh out of camp. So he might ball out. I think what's important for people who are interested in Shedeur's growth, just make sure Shedeur is passing every challenge that the Cleveland Browns are handing to him, right? He's not going to start week one, more than likely. It's probably not going to happen. And he might not start till the second half of the season. Just for now, what's important is that whatever team he's up against, don't be obsessive if it's first team, second team reps, just win those reps. Right?
Yep.
That will send a positive message. Whatever quarter you're in, if you're Shedeur, win that quarter, right? That will send the right message. That will send a positive message, and that will eventually turn into starts for him because there's going to be opportunity for anybody in this quarterback room at some point during the season. It's about just handling the task in front of you. Don't be so obsessed with starting. Is he getting first team reps? Is this competition fair? This isn't really a 4-man competition. I think it's a 3-man competition, right? Like, I think it's like if Shedeur blows us away, he can win the job. But outside of that, it's probably going to be Kenny or Joe. And then maybe if Dylan blows us away, we go with Dylan and we feel more comfortable because he's older and he's played 5 years of FBS football versus 2. So that to me is kind of how I see the room and kind of how I see Shedeur's whole part in it. It's going to be something because there's always a reason to get upset about whatever's happening.
So what about when they go to camp? Is it like training camp? You think they continue to treat them the same way and bring them along as they feel is appropriate? Or is it like, they've mentioned, they don't care really how many reps Flacco gets right now because they know what he is and they know who he is. As they get closer to the season, I expect him to get ramped up because I think he's going to start. But that's my personal opinion. Are you of the opinion that Pickett's going to start? Is that where you would put your money if you're a betting man right now? And then B, are they taking the training wheels off for these guys, or are they still kind of easing them in at the pace they see fit?
All right, so here's how I think that this is going to break down. Kenny Pickett is who I think the coaching staff wants to start. That is their hope. Best case scenario, they come out of camp, Kenny Pickett's a clear-cut starter because that's the guy who's young enough to get better, but not so and young enough to play 17 games, but not old to where you have no future with him, or so old that you can't trust him to get through 17 games, right? So I think that's in their heart of hearts. They want to start somebody for 17 games, and they know the most stable person who can win this job is Kenny Pickett. I don't know if they're bought in that Kenny's going to win the job, though, right? I think that's what they want to have happen, right? If Kenny plays well, then they're like, he's better than Joe Flacco. They're gonna jump ship with Joe Flacco, and they're gonna go full steam ahead with Kenny Pickett. Like, I truly believe that would be what they do. Joe Flacco is there. You watch wrestling, Brad?
Yeah. No. Not
you
really.
don't watch wrestling? All right. There's a concept in wrestling called, like, if you're the champion and you get disqualified, even if you lose via disqualification, you keep the title, right? The title can't change hands on disqualification in wrestling.
Okay. Yeah.
Joe de facto is what I'm going to call it, right?
Okay.
He is the guy who, if nobody blows us away, we're going to start Joe Flacco, right? Like, he is the C option where it's like, hey, if nobody looks like they're better than what we remember Joe Flacco being, we're just going to start Joe Flacco, probably cut Kenny Pickett, try to get him back on the practice squad. If you can't get him back on the practice squad, you're bringing like Tyler Huntley or Bailey Zapp to be like hey, if we need a backup for if like somebody goes down during the game, we could play one of the rookies for a couple of quarters and then bring this guy off the practice squad to start a week, right, in the early part of the season. So that is how they handle the veterans. When it comes to the rookies, I think it's going to be more or less similar to what we saw so far, unless something changes dramatically, like with the level of play at like a joint practice. But it's probably going to be a lot of like second team, third team reps, trading those off. And then every once in a while, Dylan gets some first team reps. And then Shador gets some first team reps. And then people write a story about it. It's a big deal. They ask Kevin about it. And then they go back to giving Kenny the bulk of the first team reps. I think they want Kenny to be the starter. Whether that happens or not is entirely up to Kenny Pickett, because I don't think they're dead set on Kenny Pickett being the starter. Yeah. Which I think is fine.
That's fair.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fair.
I think that's fair. I think that's probably pretty accurate. I think I don't really have a whole lot of, as you know, I have a whole lot of faith in Kenny Pickett to go grab that job, which is kind of why I think your Joe de facto scenario is what plays out for me. Like,
that's what I think is going to happen too, right? Like, yeah. I'm not a big believer in Kenny. No. And look, the Browns aren't either, because if they were truly a big believer in Kenny Pickett, they would have extended him already. They would have kept his fifth-year option, and they would have never signed Joe Flacco and never drafted Dylan Gabriel, right? Like the Shador thing, you could say that's for the future. I understand that. But if they were like, oh, man, Kenny, this is the guy that we believe in it, no, I don't think that. But I think they're like, hey, man, it would be great if he can emerge as a starter. I think that's how they're feeling.
That's what I think, too. Yeah, I think they're going to –
and that's why you hear what you hear coming from the building about Kenny, right? It's because they're hoping that's the case with them.
Yeah, that seems to be like the company line, right? Like what you hear from the Fishbowl on CBD, it's always Kenny Pickett, and it feels like that's the company line. And then, I just don't see him like wowing anybody enough to, we'll see what happens. I think it'll be Joe de facto. As you like to call him there. Yes. I like that nickname because, I mean, they know Joe can do it. And you have to, at least in my opinion, you have to play the guy that gives you the best chance to win.
He's the Office on Netflix. That's what Joe Flacco is. Yeah. It's like you spend like 10 minutes like, oh, what do I want to watch? Nothing else is there. Man. Man, throw in the Office. Like Joe Flacco is that for the Browns. Yeah. Just still Flacco in. It'd be fine for now. We'll find something else later. Right?
Yeah, because I mean, if they go, I mean, the recipe for winning is running the ball and playing really good defense. And maybe in this iteration of the Browns, if Pickett isn't up for that task of running that offense, you know that Joe can at least be functional in that offense and give you a chance to win a couple games early. That's
And you're thinking the ideal is like, hey, Joe threw so many interceptions in 2023 because we didn't have a run game, right?
No run
so
game.
maybe the existence of a run game can keep his targets down. Well, not targets, his attempts down, which hopefully makes it so you can play him a little bit longer than 6 games without it all falling apart. Maybe stretch it into 8 games, right? And get you to the bye week, right? Like that's once we get to the bye week, hats off. Anybody can start after the bye week, right?
Yeah.
Or even after that London game, right? Hats are off.
Yeah, I've been saying
always
6.
goes down.
Yeah.
Stuff always goes down the week we play Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh every year. Like it's an undeniable fact. Something is always happening that week. So I wouldn't be surprised if something happens then, especially the season isn't going great. But yeah, I think that's kind of how it lines up for me is, if I'm looking at this through Kevin's lens, there's no way he's like, I want to play all 4 of them this year. No coach. No. And because you've lived with coaches before, right? Like,
yeah.
No coach goes into the season like, man, I can't wait to play all my quarterbacks.
We're gonna play all 4. We're gonna try to play 5 quarterbacks every year.
Every time you ever hear a coach say we're going to play both of them, boy, they always like have to suck in some spit and like, ugh, I got to play both of them. They don't like that. No.
No, they want their guy. All right. So with that in mind, and I think that's very well put. You're watching All Eyes on Cleveland. My name's Brad Ward. That's the always fantastic Quincy Carrier. Kind enough to stop by and go over some of this stuff. All right, so this is a question for you. Do you expect the Browns? Do you expect the Browns to do anything else to their roster, as far as not like little stuff on the fringe, but like, do you expect them to try to trade for a wide receiver? There's a couple teams with surplus: Green Bay, New England, Indiana, or Indianapolis are the teams that I keep talking about. Is there, do you think that they try to sign, another? I don't even know. Do you think that are they uncomfortable with the 3rd tight end and go to like Jordan Akins because they're afraid if, say, Njoku's hurt and now it's Fannin and Charlie Whitebeard, Whitebeard and Fannin, you can't really run some of the stuff in your playbook without, what I mean, with those two that you can run with Njoku and Fannin. Or do they feel like they need to go to a more dependable guy at that 3rd tight end? Is there anything on defense that you think they could add?
I think, and I will admit that I am on the opposite side of the tracks here with most of the Brown space here, because I think everybody's like looking at pass catcher and worried about it. I'm less worried about it. I'm looking at what the hammer is supposed to be for this team, and that's the run game. And I like that the Browns invested in the run game, but also, like, if we're talking about this team getting to 500 carries, I think there's a bit of a problem that pops up, right? Jerome Ford, really effective when you give him 100 carries, starts to get exposed when you give him 200, right? So somewhere probably at like 150 is the max of carries you want to give him. More realistically, probably thinking about 150 carries for him, right? Again, we're trying to get to 500. 200 carries for Quincy Junkins. I think that's a pretty safe bet, right? 2nd round pick. This guy led the SEC in rushing, and I think he was up there with top running backs in the Big Ten in efficiency. So, okay, he big guy too, 200 some pounds, 220 pounds, NFL build already, no doubt about it. He's going to be a big running back. So you think he could play right away? Cool. 200 carries for him. I really don't mind that. So right now we're 150 carries. We're being generous for Jerome Ford. 200 for Quinshon. It's about 350. Where are those other 150 carries coming from? I know a lot of people go Dylan Sampson. There's a chance that dude's not ready, right? Like, more so than Quinshon, because he's much smaller, about 5'8", 202 pounds. And like expecting a 4th round pick to come out the gate and just be able to run the ball 150 plus times, that's tough. right? Especially to do it efficiently. And this is supposed to be the strength of the Browns game. I do have faith that Dylan Sampson will eventually be a good running back. My concern is, what is he going to be year one? And what happens if he's not that good year one? Because then you take this running back room out of sync, in my opinion, where Quincy makes a lot of sense as a bell cow, and then Dylan makes sense as a change of pace, right?
Yeah.
And then you have Jerome Ford in this perfect slot where he's your third running back. And then that's how you get to those carries. I think that makes sense. But if Dylan's not able to hold up his end, then you got to shift Jerome Ford to the number 2 spot, which has not been a strength of his. And then what we're talking about, Pierre Strong and Dylan Sampson splitting those third carries. Like it's not a situation I think is good. I think they could use a safety valve in that running back room if they're going to run the ball as much, where it's like, hey, if Dylan's not ready, we have this guy to go to, right? I thought Nick Chubb would have made sense because year one, you could have 200 for Quincy, and then however many you want to give Nick Chubb, they can split carries, and then we'll fit in the rookie where he fits in, right? If it's a Nick Chubb situation in year one where the guy's incredible, okay, give him more carries. But if he's not ready in year one, then, you can let it sit a little bit. So I'm a bit concerned with running back. I think you probably need to add another body at the running back position. Yeah, I would feel more comfortable if our fourth running back wasn't Pierre Strong. Like, I don't know if Dearness Johnson is still out there, but like that would be somebody I'd be like, yeah, it makes sense to bring him in.
Yeah.
You could cut him if like Dylan looks ready, but like I'm a bit concerned that our top 2 rushers this year have never played a snap in the NFL. And we're talking about building this offense completely around the run game, which concerns me a little bit.
Do you think that have we seen it where like rookie running backs have a hard time transitioning to the NFL a lot? Like, I don't think
we hear about the ones that are great, but there are a lot of them that weren't. Like Blake Corum led the SEC in rushing last year. He's about the same size as Dylan Sampson. He didn't do nothing this year, right? Like that's it. We will hear about the ones that are successful early on, and there are. But how many times have we heard about 2 running backs in the same draft class, both being ready year one? Last time we tried this, it was with Terrence West and Isaiah Crowell.
Yeah.
And I think those were Isaiah Crowell was like undrafted or something like that, right? But he was he was better. But so I'm not saying Dylan can't be good or anything like that. I'm saying we're really betting on a lot for a situation that does not happen very often, which is you draft 2 young running backs, you could rely on them both for 100+ carries and just end up fine. I think. Yeah, I really don't want to be here talking about Pierre Strong taking eight run plays a game, right? Like, we could easily end up there.
Okay, all right, yeah. I mean, that's interesting. It's an interesting take. I think Sampson. Well, I actually think they're going to have Sampson highly involved, in the offense. I don't know. I mean, it doesn't mean he has to take excessive amount of carries. Have you seen Mike Clay's projections for the Browns? They're god awful, but. He does them every year, right? He had Quincy Judkins 240 attempts, going over 1,000 yards, 1,050 yards. He has Jerome Ford 71 carries for 326 yards. Dylan Sampson 47 carries for 202 yards, and Pierre Strong 4 carries for 17 yards.
They'll put the Browns under 450, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is absurd. I mean, his projections are absurd. I wrote a whole article about why I disagree with all this stuff, but he's about 600 yards short from what they should be in the run game, probably. But.
Yeah, and I think if you go back to Kevin Stefanski, right, to talk about 2020, 2021, those years where they got about 500 rushing attempts is why. Yeah. And it was easy to get to 500 with Kareem and Nick Chubb. Hell, we got 500 and people are like, we need to run the ball more. We're number 2 in rushing attempts, right?
Yeah.
Without a quarterback who runs, which is a big part of how you get to the top numbers in rushing attempts.
For sure.
Now that you're not going to have a quarterback who can't move, right? Deshaun was taking up like 60 carries in a healthy season if he were out there, right, with runs. That's not happening. I've seen all these quarterbacks play football recently. They're not going to take up 60 carries anytime soon. If they are, the offensive line is a disaster. So where are you getting those rushing attempts from, right? With the passing game, for me, I worry about it less because those numbers are being condensed, which means the depth is going to matter less because Jerry Jeudy's going to get 150 targets. David Njoku's going to get 100 plus targets. Cedric Tillman's probably going to get 100 plus targets. We're already, 350, 450, talking about 500 something pass attempts. We're with Harold Fainer, maybe 60 pass attempts there. Then whoever's third wide receiver, and then miscellaneous after that. I just don't think the depth is going to be as important for this team at wide receiver as it's going to be at running back because they're really trying to increase those numbers, but still have the same number of running backs. And I consider they got 3 on the roster. I know people like Pierre Strong, but I'm not a big fan, and I'm not trying to see more Pierre Strong. Right?
He can't. Swift win knocks him over. He doesn't break any tackles. I'm done with the Pierre Strong. I'm hoping that Sampson can contribute right away. Obviously, and if he can't, then Ford will. But I get your point that you don't want to end up in where if he's struggling or whatever, you end up with. Having to depend on Pierre Strong. I don't want, so I get adding another body there. Interestingly enough here, Mike Clay projections. So you nailed it with as far as the wide receiver stuff, right? Jerry Jeudy 141 for 1,177 yards, right? Cedric Tillman 107 targets, 63 catches for 816 yards. Would you take that right now from Ced? I would probably.
Yeah, absolutely. The 5 weeks that he was in, I think he was on pace for about 1,100 over 17 games. So 800. I think I'd be thrilled with 800 from Cedric.
And then they have Deontay Johnson, 74 targets, 41 catches, 507 yards. I'd take it right now.
I don't think he's going to play for this team in a regular season. I'm done.
You don't?
No, I don't think. I think we're wasting time here factoring in Deontay Johnson.
Really?
This guy's been cut from 2 championship contenders in the last calendar year.
Did you watch the podcast, Q?
His podcast? No.
It's not his podcast. He was on
somebody
a podcast
else's
called Sports and Suits. Some guy, what was his name? You probably know who he was. His name was something Sanchez. He was a quarterback at South Carolina back in the day.
Like Roberto Sanchez or Rigoberto or something like that. Might be a kicker.
I took notes on the whole thing. Let me see if I can find him.
Right.
I watched this whole it was a very boring podcast. But I'm convinced. He sold me. He sold me that Deontay is going to be a different guy this year.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm a sucker. Probably am.
I'm being cynical about this because I've been burnt in the past. So, don't like, if you have optimism about it, I'm not here to rain on anybody's parade and tell them they can't. Me personally, I'm just looking at some of the factors here. He got cut from 2 championship teams, 2 teams in the playoffs during the calendar year. And now he's in Cleveland. And we think in Cleveland is where he's going to figure it out and really care about the opportunity that he has ahead of him when he ain't showed that he give a damn about any of them opportunities over the last year. And then he didn't show up to voluntary minicamp for whatever reason. Which,
I know that was irritating.
I'm off of it, but if there's not a reason he wasn't at OTAs, it's like, bro, you definitely got to be there. Like, that's where you are, your point of your career. And what if he does start cooking in training camp and that old Deontay come back, right? He start thinking he need the ball more. I'm better than this guy. Like, the production, if he's on your team, he'll be productive. But I feel like we're doing a lot counting on this dude being on the team. I'm going to treat him like Kadarius Toney, me personally. Like, it's just one of those things.
So much better than Kadarius Toney, though. Like,
but it's not. He's right now. He's about as effective in the last year as Kadarius has been.
Agreed.
So,
but that's because he didn't play, right? Okay, so on the podcast, I know.
Yes.
On the podcast, though, he talked about why he didn't go into the game, and he admitted it was dumb, and he admitted he had mentally checked out. Why he didn't go into the game. They were like, Tay, we need you. In the fourth quarter, he hadn't played all game. He was like, his quote on the podcast was something like, I don't want to put bad film out there or something, or I'm going to get hurt. because it was really cold or whatever. Dude
He
went to
wasn't trying to
Toledo.
play.
I mean, he's played in cold weather his whole career, and Pittsburgh. So it was kind of a dumb excuse. But he was like, really, I was stupid for that, and I was all in my own head at that point. And then he talked about how when he went to Houston, they started talking to him like he was going to play a lot. Because remember, Houston had a bunch of injuries last year at the end of their wide receiver core.
And then he didn't play, and he got mad about that.
Yeah. He said, "Oh," and then they started playing their draft picks, and I understand that, but I also got mad because they were talking to me like I was going to be the man. And he said I basically had checked out at that point, and that was it. So, I mean,
But what's going to be different in Cleveland? Like
he realizes his last chance. He said, "I got one call from one team." Cleveland Browns. That's it. I know this is my last chance.
Hey, look, I get that it would logically make sense for this young man to figure it out at this point. But what is he, 25, 26?
Actually, I don't know how old he is. I can check right now.
Yeah. All I'm saying is it's one thing to recognize your situation.
29.
Yeah, and it's another thing to act as if that's it. I have seen plenty of people who habitually line step, say, "Hey, man, I'm sorry. I know I was wrong. I recognize the fault there." But then the kitchen gets hot, and they never address the root of why it is that they got hot. And then the same thing happened. And that's all I'm saying. How much addressing the root could have really happened between now and the last team that cut him, which wasn't even Houston. The Baltimore Ravens cut him again. So
what they did?
No, yeah, they brought him back after Houston, and then they cut him in like before the draft, and now he's in Cleveland. So yeah, that's the thing. Like, do I believe eventually he'll figure it out? Absolutely, yeah. Maybe with Kansas City, because that's the kind of stuff that happens for a team like Kansas City. But Cleveland, we know how this story usually goes. We get the Dwayne Bowe part of this story where it's like, oh, yeah, I was still learning lessons. Like, I think he's squarely in it. He's still in that journey right now. And I don't judge him for going through that journey. I just recognize that journey is not going to be like this. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's a chance that this does not work out well at all. I guess maybe I'm just hopeful because I know how good he can be. You know, I mean, he can be elite. He's an elite separator. So
now, when he feels like he's playing good, Brad, and Cedric Tillman starting over him, you think he gonna like that?
I don't think he has a choice to like it or not this year.
He didn't have a choice. His last two teams. He was on the Panthers to start the year, by the way, right?
I know.
Got 200 yards in a game. And this is the part that isn't addressed in this whole pod, right? Is why, okay, you didn't get the ball in Baltimore. That made you mad. And they gaslit you in Houston. I understand that. You got the ball in Carolina, and they said, here, take them. What was going on
Put
there?
up good numbers in Carolina.
And they were desperate at wide receiver, and they couldn't wait to get rid of him.
I know.
So, I mean, hey, look, man, feel like there's a bigger journey going on there than what's going to be fixed this offseason. But yeah, I hope I'm wrong. But my intuition just tells me, no, I don't buy that at all.
Yeah. I get it. Him, falling in line behind Tillman is a hard thing to imagine, but
imagine Jabari Thrash gets snaps before him. It might happen.
I mean, they're going to be fighting for the same snaps. The problem is that they're going to be fighting for the same snaps. The problem is Thrash hasn't shown me a damn thing in any of the time that he's put on the field. So,
in all seriousness, usually for a dude like that, it takes a undeniable presence to get you to snap in line. Where it's like, hey, Randy Moss told me to calm down. Right. Or something like somebody with so much clout and respect that you have no other. Bill Belichick said no more. And even sometimes with a dude like Bill, it don't work out. Or Tom Brady. We saw this with Antonio Brown. Right. But like if we want to know situations where it really can work out like that, there's got to be somebody in that building that could be.
What about if Miles has a heart-to-heart with him?
Miles play defense.
Don't matter.
It's a different world. Like, what are you gonna do? Fight him? Like, it's not his world.
No, but
like,
just sit down with him and talk to him. Like, I mean,
it's not his jurisdiction. And then we know Miles ain't gonna do any of that.
I know he won't do it. I know he won't do that. And it's a damn shame that he wouldn't too. But
I think it's like how you asking him to do this on defense too with everybody. He can't do that for everybody. And
he doesn't do any of that though. I mean,
it's not gonna hit because he doesn't play wide receiver. Like that's what I'm saying. He needs somebody in that
really
room.
Not about what position you're playing at that point.
It is because
it's
these
about
blow
getting
ups,
your head in the game.
Here's what I'm saying though, Brad. These blow ups aren't going to happen in the team meeting room. They're going to happen in the position meeting room, and that's what I'm saying. It's like somebody has to be in that room where he thinks to himself, "I don't want to embarrass myself in front of this dude. I don't want to show my ass in front of this dude." And that's what I'm saying. It's like you're probably going to get a blow up here at some point because who are you afraid to show his ass to? Jerry Jeudy? He older than Jerry Jeudy, right?
Jeudy and Njoku.
Yeah, what Chad O'Shea? That's gonna stop him. Like it's not. I just don't see it in there.
You're probably right. I listened to him. He owned up to it. He was very candid about his year last year. You guys keep talking about the cold. It doesn't matter that it's cold. It was not about the cold. He doesn't care about the cold. He played at Toledo. He played in Pittsburgh for 6 years. He doesn't care about the cold. He plays in the cold all the time. He was making a point by not going in the game. It's not about the cold.
He ain't feel like which look, there's a lot of things that get you kicked out the league that aren't off the field related. Insubordination always get you cut, right? And I think that's what was happening. It was insubordination with him. And that's the question. It's like, is he going to be able to be subordinate in the way that coaches are going to want him to be subordinate? And maybe Kevin doesn't play games with him and that's a better environment for him to thrive. And maybe they feel like they got that plan. But you look at Mike Tomlin wide receivers once they leave Pittsburgh, it's not often that they figure it out.
And they always got to get rid of them right before they.
Yeah, I mean, it's a violent spell. You seen Chase Claypool lately?
No.
I think he's in Canada.
Yeah, sounds about right. Par for the course there. All right, so I guess me hearing him talk candidly, I guess I'm rooting for him. I am rooting for him because I just think that I have questions about what Jamari Thrash can really be. So now you make the great point of will he be fine just being behind Cedric Tillman if he balls out, which we all hope. I don't know. They did take. Now I do want to make this point because I did watch the stupid podcast for an hour and plus whatever, and they were talking about all kinds of stuff. And Chantel, you pointed out that he wants Pickett to start, so he was misquoted. Now a bunch of people said that Deontay Johnson says Kenny Pickett is gonna start, and they used that quote all over the place. And like usual, if you listen to the whole quote, he was like, I think Kenny Pickett will probably start through like the preseason and then probably Flacco. So that's actually the actual quote. People just like to throw the other. They didn't hear the end of it or whatever. People sensationalize and don't take stuff out of context.
They want to get that blog on Instagram with the angry picture and the quote at the bottom. So people react to it and go, what? And ask no further questions after seeing that. They just get mad.
But I watched the long, painful podcast, and he did say that. All right. So my last question.
I would get why he would want Kenny Pickett to start. He knows him, and he had 1,000 yards with him, right? Like it's not a wild concept. It's the same way Jerry Jeudy's probably like, man, I like Joe Flacco, right? Because he saw what a quarterback similar to Joe Flacco could do for his career in Jameis Winston. So it's like, they're gonna have their preferences. Ain't really a problem.
So I want to ask this question before we get out of here.
Yes.
To you. All right. You say you never answered my question about tight end. Real quick.
Oh,
are you fine with Whitebeard, or do you think they need to bring somebody in?
I think they'll keep like Sal Cannella or somebody like that on the practice squad as like a option if one of the receiving tight ends go down. So yeah, I think that's fine, right? And the routes they're gonna ask tight end to run. It's not like they're gonna be drags, right? Like they're gonna be check downs. I think Whitebeard can do that fine if they really needed him to.
Yes, you called him Whitebeard. I love it. All right.
Does he have a
white
white beard?
Whitebeard. Huh?
Or does he have a white beard, or is it because his name is Whiteheart?
Yeah, I just called him Whitebeard since day one, and it's catching on with everybody. Whiteheart, Whitebeard, it's all the same. What Quincy Carrier is the most likely downfall of this team in 2025? What are you most concerned about that sends this team that they cannot do or cannot, whatever it is, whatever aspect, coaching, run game, deep, and it could be anything that just breaks down and it's the reason that they fail and it becomes a bad season. What are you most afraid of?
What do we define as a bad season for this year? Because I think we're all under the understanding this team's probably going to be under 500.
I think a good season, I can tell you that, is playing relevant football in December. So, I mean, you could do that and win 6 games probably.
Mm-hmm. So we're like, oh, the Browns get the number 1 overall pick bad. Like, how does that happen?
Anything below 5 wins. 5 wins and below.
I think, well, I mean, outside of injury, right? Because that's always the answer is injury is what can usually make it that bad.
Yeah.
But outside of injury, I would say the questions we have about the run game, and the run blocking too, we haven't even touched on that. But run blocking, is it going to be where it needs to be? Are the running backs going to be there? Because a lot of this is built around that. There's a question for me of I think there has been a clear split of what quarterbacks Kevin has success with and what he doesn't. And my big fear with Kevin is that this is a guy who's really good with a team that has a quarterback, but not really good if you're trying to find a quarterback, right? Because it's undeniable. He's helped quarterbacks before. Right. Yeah. Like there is proof there. Baker had a really efficient season with them in 2020 compared to everything else he had put out before that. You had the Kirk Cousins, one of his most efficient seasons of his career. Jacoby Brissett has never looked as good as he did in Cleveland, right? Like all of these things have happened under Kevin Stefanski, and you can point to Kevin. And even like what he did with Joe Flacco, like up until that point, Joe Flacco was a fossil and he basically revived his NFL career, right? Like he was on the street at that point. So there is evidence that like what Kevin does, it does work with quarterbacks. The question is is this something to where he can learn to make it something that can work for younger quarterbacks? So you look at the quarterbacks who have failed. Baker Mayfield, rookie deal. Deshaun Watson wasn't on a rookie deal, but only had played 3.5 seasons by the time he came to Cleveland because he missed his first year with the ACL injury, half of that, and then missed 2022, right? So missed 2022, missed 2020. So you're talking about 2020, 2018, 2019, and then half of 2017. It's 3.5 years. It's still in his rookie deal, comes to Cleveland, and then it looks like he's overwhelmed all the time, right? Dorian Thompson-Robinson looks like he's overwhelmed all the time. Are we going to find out that Kevin is not able to adjust this to scale it with quarterbacks with less experience? The one thing that does give me hope is that 2020 Baker Mayfield year, but then you got to figure out what happened in 2021 with those two, right? Has he learned from those experiences to be better in those situations? Or have they sharpened their lens for what they need in a quarterback to where they're able to find it a lot more with people who would fit in that offense, right? Because I think that's also part of it. So that's one thing. I can 100% see the Browns eventually getting rid of Kevin Stefanski and everybody being furious because he goes somewhere else and ends up having a long 10, 11, 12-year career because he got a quarterback early on. And we're just like, oh, what could have been, right? It could be another one of those things. He's a good coach. I hate to break it to people. He's a good coach, right? He's going to work out somewhere. The question is is he the right coach for our situation? And right now the Browns need somebody who can help a quarterback get to, or is that going to lead them to go after another veteran quarterback with those extra first round picks next year, right? So that's something I think about often is like, hey, Kevin, quarterbacks, what's been the problem, right? Has it been the
You think
quality
they
of
could
guys you're
go
bringing in?
for a veteran with those picks next year?
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Andrews already said it. That's always an option on the table, right? He said in an interview, people assume that we use these draft picks and we're going to use them for players, but there are resources at the end of the day that we can use to acquire players.
Yeah, I just think that if they use them, they would be going up to get a rookie quarterback.
I'd imagine too, but if you get through the season and you're like, oh, so Kev's strength is with veteran quarterbacks, and a veteran quarterback is available.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I could see them talking themselves into it, especially if they're not picking in top 5, right? So if they're picking like 14th and 20th, and Dallas is like, we'll give you a Dak for that. I'm not saying that this will happen, right? Because there's contract things that are in the way for that to happen. But I could see them being like, maybe, or maybe if the 49ers get panic on the contract and want to trade Brock Purdy, right? Or Tua gets available or something like that. Like, I could see the Browns and Kevin being like, yeah, we could work with that. Those are the kind of quarterbacks I can work with. And we know this, so let's just do that instead of rolling the dice on the 13th for Drew Aller or whatever it's going to be. So, yeah, I think all options are open to them to bring in advance this quarterback position if the answer isn't found to be here this year. But if we're going on what can make this season a disaster, there is not having offensive consistency, which I think is going to make them be an under 500 team. Yeah. And then there is being as bad as you were last year. If you are as bad offensively as you were last year, we look at the trifecta of poop that happened with this team.
There's no way.
Right. Well, there was a trifecta of dookie going on with that team, right? Run game was terrible. Right. Pass game was the worst in the NFL.
Right.
And then your field goal kicking was awful.
Yeah.
That's going to lose you a lot of games. That's a recipe.
Trifecta of Dookie.
That is the trifecta. That is the triforce of do, right? Like, that is awful. Like, you're going to lose if you can't do those things. You want to know why Pittsburgh always goes over 500? They always have good field goal kicking. They always have good field goal kicking, right?
It's true.
And that saves them. Even when the quarterback is due, even when the run game is due, they got that field goal kicking to lean on, right? The Browns probably would have won 3 or 4 more games if they just had better field goal kicking last year. So the field goal kicking, right? Dustin Hopkins. Are we really betting on this again? I'm nervous about it. I'm very nervous about it, right? And as much as I feel better about the vibes of the season, I have to acknowledge that if we look at the trifecta of doom that doomed this team last year, the doom trifecta, whatever we want to call it, we still got questions at quarterback. We still got questions at kicker. We still got questions at running back. We feel better about the potential answers because the answer isn't Deshaun Watson, Jerome Ford, and Dustin Hopkins, even though one of those answers might still be Dustin Hopkins. But we got different answers available that we hope will work out. But if none of those work out and the run game stinks, the passing game stinks, and the field goal kicking is awful, we will stink.
Yeah.
So
I think that's fair. The trifecta of Duke for sure. Yeah. But now
the trifecta of terror.
Of terror. I think the run game will be better. Just conceptually going back to kind of, personnel wise, this offensive line, even though they're older than dirt, they were doing stuff that they weren't really acquired to do last year. Like, they were kind of asked to go outside of their, like, what you brought them in personnel wise to do. They're getting back to what they would like to do and what their identity was when they were working as a good group. So even though they have some age, I think the addition of Cornelius Lucas and Tevin Jenkins can, they solidify them a little bit.
The depth is much better than it was last year. We're very far away from ever having to start Jermaine Ifedi, which, like, all I can ask for, right? And that's what I think people forget. We dog on this offensive line last year. They claimed they were playing out of position, which I could believe. They had an awful offensive line coach for whatever reason. Something happened. And they were playing injured most of the year. So to their credit, I don't think last year is a fair barometer for what these guys can still do.
No,
they're not going to be elite, but I think given the right situation, they could be decent.
Yeah. And I am excited about the concept of Quinchon and Sampson and what they can do as a 1-2 punch. So
Mhm. And look, I know somebody, MC Lawrence, just said I just kicked all their excitement out. I'm not bringing these stuff up to tell you,
I asked
this
the
is why.
question.
Yeah.
I asked the
Well,
question.
yeah, well, it's like I'm not bringing this stuff up to say, this is why the Browns are going to stink. I think they're going to stink. I think the Browns will be a surprisingly fun team this year. I think they're going to be like a tough 7-9 win team that are going to be hell to play, right? Like think about like the Indianapolis Colts have been that for like the last couple of years. Like I think that'd be similar to what the Browns are, where we're saying to ourselves, hey, we get a quarterback, we're going to be good to go. We're going to feel like 2018, right? Maybe a quarterback emerges in the draft. So I don't think this team's going to be awful. I'm just saying, like, hey, if we're pointing out what went wrong last year and what our solutions are, we just have to acknowledge that these aren't finite, definite solutions right now. We're hoping that a lot of this stuff works out. And just because hope is not a guarantee does not mean it's bad to have it, but also it's very healthy to understand the limitations of that hope, which is what I'm trying to bring up. It's like, hey, gotta look out for this stuff, right? Because I've done this before where I get overexcited and I have a vision for a player. I'm like, this guy's going to be a Hall of Famer. And then, a couple things go wrong. I ain't anticipating. Then dude's falling off a scooter getting cut, right? Like it is what it is. And that's all I'm trying to make sure I'm not setting up any unfair expectations of this team, right? Because if they exceed the expectations, I think that's fair, but I don't want to just be like optimism, especially when I know damn well I could see things going wrong. I don't anticipate it, but I can see it.
I mean, I asked you the question, what would go wrong just to end this team under 5 wins? So, I mean, I led you right into a negative answer regardless, you know what I mean?
And like the truth is, look, any NFL team is like 3 injuries and a couple of things not working out the way they thought from winning 5 games. Look, didn't the 49ers like win 5 games last year?
Yep. They're
with a healthy Brock Purdy. It did pay them like $200-something million. Hey man, that's the margins in the NFL. The Browns could have won 10 games last year. If they had like reasonable quarterback play, I firmly believe they would have won 10 games last year.
Oh, but there's no doubt.
They didn't
they ran out Deshaun Watson to a 1-8, 1-9 start, something like that. I mean, consecutively when he was like the all-time historically bad. I mean, you can't succeed that way.
Yeah, you had last year 47 quarterbacks got over 100 snaps and got a success rate percentage. You had 47 and 46 playing for you.
Yep.
For like 8 games. DTR and Deshaun Watson, which, by the way, DTR is last, and then there is a gap, and then there's Deshaun Watson, and then there's a gap between Deshaun Watson and the next guy. Like, you're not going to win very many football games when your success percentage is that awful. So that's all I'm saying. But if the Browns are going to play this way, they need to be a solid run team. They need to make their field goal kicks. And they need to play low turnover passing game, right? And that's why Kenny Pickett's appealing to them, because Kenny Pickett has done that before. It's not sexy, but that's why, right? 2,000-yard passer type shit. But, it is what it is. That is the style of football they're going to play. So if the other guy want to add to a body, they need to add another kicker, right? Because I'm worried about the run game a little bit. I think there needs to be another body, and I want to have a kicker. Yeah. Smite.
They got another kicker on the roster.
From the Battlehawks. I want 4 in camp. Okay.
You want 4 kickers.
Yeah. I want don't even bring them to Berea, dog. Just have them park at what I call it. It's been First Energy. Now it's Huntington Bank. Have them down there near the lake kicking footballs, and then report back to me who's consistently making the most. We'll keep that guy. That's
totally fair. Like, why even kick in any other conditions but in that stadium?
I mean, like with Berea, like, I mean, I guess there's tailwinds from the airplanes that are nearby, but I mean, it ain't the stadium, dog. You know what I mean? Like, it ain't the same. So, and honestly, they need to just hire like 100 Browns fans to stand next to him and just like
scream,
boo him like the whole time. Like, just get used to it,
Yeah. I mean, kicking is such a fickle thing. Guys get cut, and then 2 years later they make the Pro Bowl. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Or guys get cut for missing game-winning field goals and then show up later on a rival team and miss a game-winning field goal for them too.
I know. Yeah, that's true. I'm just saying there are lots of guys that have gone through ups and downs in their kicking career. It's kind of like for me.
That's why I'm like, just throw out as many. Yeah, just throw out as many guys as possible. Just take flyers on a bunch of kickers. Like, hey, he was good 3 years ago. Let's see if he got it. That's how we got Dustin Hopkins.
Yeah, you just get a guy that's hot in the right mindset and you ride him for a season. I mean, that's really about all you can count on a guy, unless they're elite like Tucker or something.
That's how the Ravens got Tucker.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
so yeah, good point on the kicking. And then I'm right there with you. I think that a failure to run the football in an effective manner that allows the quarterback to manage the game. If your quarterbacks are throwing the ball, 40, 45 times a game, you're in trouble, right? In this season. So the run game's got to be there. I'm with you. So
yeah, that's
it could be. It could be.
And look, I don't think Dylan Sampson's an unreasonable bet to be good in year one. I'm just saying, once we're talking about 4th round picks and guys who don't have that prototypical size, it becomes more of a projection than anything, right? I hope he's ready. But I mean, like, even with Quinshawn, like, there's a very real scenario where he's just not ready year one, and it's just we're stuck in the mud, like, So there. When you're relying on playing as many rookies or playing as many new guys in a rotation as the Browns are, especially on the offensive side of the ball, there's just going to be room for that can really slow down your season. Now, if this is the perfect year and all these young guys look amazing, we're going to feel great about this year, even if they don't go over 500. But if we see some hesitation there, it's not going to shock me. I'm not going to be on the hopefully on the OBR network on my show screaming, "Oh my God, we need to fire everybody. This is a disaster." Right? This is how you avoid becoming screaming, yelling sports talk guy. Right? Is just you just account for stuff, and that's all I'm asking people to do is let's account for some stuff, some very clear stuff that we all should be accounting for right now that we're just not.
Very fair. Very fair. Well said. You got anything else to leave everybody with, Quincy? We're gonna get out of here for the night. I hope everybody has a great 4th of July. Don't do anything dumb. Be safe. Anything you got to say?
Just enjoy the ride this year. I see a lot of people trying to make it be something or want it to be something. I take some joy in not having any expectations this year. I don't know if any of these quarterbacks are going to look good, but if Shador looks great, hey man, that's going to be fun as hell, right? If Dylan surprises all of us and we're all wrong about him being 5'11", hey man, we gonna get behind little dude, right? Like we gonna rock with our guy, right? We gonna all be short kings for Dylan Gabriel, like Joe Flacco got another season in him, sure, why not, right? Like former Ravens tend to work out in Cleveland for whatever reason, and if it's Kenny Pickett and he's good in Cleveland but stuck in Pittsburgh, and that'd be hilarious. Like, so
it would be very funny.
I think we have had Super Bowl or bust expectations for this team, whether we think this team deserved it or not, for like the last 5 years. It's like 2018, we've been like, this is the year we're gonna make the leap. 2019, we trade for Odell Beckham, right? We have had nonstop high expectations for this team, and now we're at a point to where we're like, okay, whatever this season is whatever this season is, and you can just enjoy it, right? And we don't have to analyze it to death and see if this is going to stop us from getting out the second round. We can just enjoy it. In a couple of years, hopefully this core is good enough to where we're not just at the point of enjoying it and we can really get excited about this team winning a Super Bowl. But until we get there, let's just see what this new core is going to look like, how the old core is going to add to it, and figure out what gaps we need to fill in the 2026 offseason, because that's going to be critical, right? College football year, this is going to be a critical year for college football as well for the Browns fans. So, just enjoy being able to experience this season and not have the expectations really forcing you one direction or the other.
Yeah. Well said. It kind of taints things when you come in expecting
Carlito's way, Coloni's coin a lot of ways. There ain't no difference between 5'11" and 6'1". Sounds like a man who's 5'11", right? Sounds like everybody who's 5'11" swear there ain't no difference. Everybody who's 6 foot or above, they know it's a difference. And look, I'm talking from outside the club. I ain't close to 6 foot, but I know a 6 foot man when I see it, and I know a 5'11" man when I see it. And my brother, you sound 5'10" right now. Like, yeah, you trying to be in the club. Ain't that different? I could get there. Let me get the right shoes on, sir. Sir, you're not 6 foot.
No. That sounds exactly right. He laughed too. Very good. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hilarious. Appreciate you guys participating. And like I said, don't do anything that I wouldn't do, which really doesn't limit you. So have a good weekend. Have fun. Don't be stupid. Appreciate you watching the OBR Streaming Network. Thanks again to Quincy Carey. You're always fantastic. Make sure you follow him at Quinn_C. We are out.
Peace.